What's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? Can you guys hear me?
Maybe a little bit louder. Can you hear me?
What's up, what's up, what's up? How's all the Moon Lords doing today?
Hi, guys. We have a lot to talk about today.
Yep.
For Gemini Moon.
Yep.
Lot to air out from this morning already.
So much. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm super wired. This Gemini Moon, I have a Gemini sun at 1 degree, so it lit me up first thing this morning, and I have been like running around. But hopefully I'll be able to sit still through this. And if I talk super fast, it's just because I have lots of exciting stuff to say.
Oh yeah, let's do this. So guys, I'm gonna get this volume a little bit higher right now, and you guys just give me that okay that we're good. Gain, okay. Close. My check. You guys hear us good? Okay, so today we have a very exciting episode because we're going to be doing the Uranus and Taurus Ape Revolution. And basically we're going to talk about what it means that Uranus is in Taurus, how it affects us as a whole community in the Ape Nation, and just how it affects us in general. And at the end of this reading, or at the end of this video, we're going to do free readings just like we did last time to explain how these transits of this Uranus and Taurus is going to affect your life in general. Emily, tell us, where's Uranus in your chart, just out of curiosity?
So Uranus is going through my first house. I'm a Taurus rising.
Oh.
And all of my planets, I have Mars, Venus, and Mercury in Taurus. I have a late degree Aries moon, and I have a 1 degree Gemini sun. So this is just like ripping through like my entire life. Plus I have Chiron in Taurus, and my ascendant's at 17 degrees. I've just been like changing at warp speed for like 2.5 years now.
That's insane. So you're a Taurus rising with Uranus in your first house right now. So wow,
right.
You're like
That's why I always have so much to say about it, because I'm like personally living through all of the effects, and I always like notice that in the world around me like that much more.
Right. Yeah. You guys, if you guys don't know, the first house is your body, your persona, how you want to project yourself in the world. It has a lot to do with the map of your life. Okay. So having Uranus in one of those big outer planets that takes 7 years to go through one sign is a huge deal. She's going through a major transformation in her life. So let's talk a little bit about what Uranus is and then what Taurus is. Okay, so Uranus is an outer planet, and it has a lot to do with your originality. You see, Uranus is first of all, I don't know if you know this, Emily. I just read about this the other day, but Uranus is the only planet in our solar system that doesn't sit upright. Did you know that? It sits like sideways.
I didn't.
Yeah, and that's
a gravitational tilt that pulls it.
Exactly, and that's a perfect way to explain Uranus right there. It's different from everything else.
Yeah, it's its own creation. It's a planet of freedom. When Uranus comes along in whatever house that he's in, you can expect to feel like a little bit more confined if circumstances don't fit you. You might want to rebel and break out. He's usually around when there are major like rebellions and revolutions happening. And technology, astrology, crypto, gaming, he has a lot of those really futuristic kind of like pastimes. Like anything that's really technical and sharp and fast and kind of electric is usually Uranian.
Exactly. Uranus is very. You see, Uranus is like Saturn, but a higher octave of it. Saturn wants to build a perfect structure, but Uranus wants to destroy that structure and build something completely new and completely better. So that's kind of what Uranus is about. It's about really just like owning your uniqueness, owning that originality that's going to bring in a whole nother world, a whole nother invention. Uranus actually rules inventions too for that reason. And
it's crazy, like eureka thoughts. Like when you just have like an instant download and something perfect and genius comes to you, that's like supposed to be like a Uranian wavelength as well. So
yeah.
Like sudden inspiration comes from him. He's a cool planet, but he's also like astrologers really struggle with him because his whole vibe, I don't know why I'm calling him, it could be a she, we don't know, but the whole vibe of Uranus is that it's unpredictable. And anybody who says that they can regularly predict what Uranus is going to do is lying, because like that's not how it works. Like it's most frequently you think something's happening in one direction and then it's like something else completely to the left. You're not supposed to be able to see what's coming. That's part of the point. That's
Right.
part of the destabilization that he likes to work within.
Yeah, Uranus is and another key word for Uranus is explosion. And you know that's why it's exalted in Scorpio, and it's kind of debilitated where it's at right now, which is very, 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 very interesting. But we'll get there. Okay, so let's talk about Taurus a little bit. And since you're Taurus rising, that's all you right there.
Yeah. Yeah, the best sign in the zodiac, number 2. Like Taurus is, like we were talking about Pisces last week being the 12th sign of the zodiac. So even though they come off kind of spacey, technically speaking, they're like evolved on the soul cycle when they already get here. Taurus is the second sign. So even though we can be very like stubborn and conservative in what we go for, we're still kind of like immature in that we have some superficial traits. We like things that look pretty. We like things of luxury around us. We do get fixated on belongings and value and making sure that there's stability there, which as the zodiac progresses, it lets us know that stability shouldn't be your goal in life, because it's not really like, it's a fleeting thing. But Taurus is like food. We like music. We like everything that's Venusian, one, and that's why money is in our domain too. So Taurus is a sign that rules the stock market. So with both of these things that are kind of, Taurus rules wealth. Yeah, we rule all the good stuff: money, food, sex, music.
Yeah, basically, she said Venusian, and that means it's a Venus sign. Taurus is a Venus sign, which is a very interesting. That Taurus is like a Venus sign because it represents the bull, which is also interesting because the bull obviously has a lot to do with the stock market, right? But Tauruses they're Venus, so they're very loving, beautiful, all about abundance type sign, but it's still the bull, so it's very stubborn, and it's hard to move the bull. Once the bull gets started, it's hard to stop it. Okay, it may take a little bit to get going, but once it gets going, it's like unstoppable. That's the Taurus energy. Now Taurus also represents the senses, so that's why it's really good with touch, sound, taste, and it's really big on food, really big on, if you're a Taurus, but I guarantee you, like if you want something, like if you go to buy something, you want to touch it. Like you probably have a hard time buying things online because you want to actually like feel it, touch it, taste it.
Tactile experience, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it matters. It really does. Like you feel and touch the quality of it. It's hard to get that through a computer screen.
Mm-hmm. And I guess you could say like Sagittarius would be the most lucky sign of the zodiac, but Taurus is considered the best manifester in the zodiac, at least in my understanding. And it's because it represents the second earth sign, so it's a fixed earth, okay? And that means it wants everything to be concrete. Like if a Taurus wants something, it plans on getting it. Like it plans on getting whatever it wants to see in their reality. And they're very stubborn and consistent about that being an earth sign.
Totally. That Taurus Scorpio axis is very all or nothing
Mm-hmm.
in totally different ways, but it is like you're all in or you're not. Like don't even bother. If you're not going to do it all the way, and if you're not going to see it through, just don't even waste your time. And so Taurus and that kind of unmovability of fixed earth can be, that's probably one of the most dangerous parts of the sign, is a real stubbornness, a refusal to see like reason if you have just dug your heels in about something. And it can be a sign that's also associated with like super conservative, like kind of like outdated thinking, because Taurus can be really like stuck with the tried and true. It's not always easy for us to embrace change, even when it's like so glaringly obvious that that's what has to happen. So sometimes you can find like low vibe Tauruses like really kind of like in the past, not seeing what's happening around them at all, because they have blinders up. They don't want to see it. They don't want to see it. They won't see it.
Right. Which is, which is very, that ties into like what happens when Uranus goes there. But before we get there, Moon Lords, how are you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that like if you haven't yet. I appreciate you guys being here. Shout out to Joey. Shout out to Monty. Shout out to AMC Stocks. You look new. What's up? Mosley Mystic. What's up? Let's see. Who else came in here? All right, guys. Hit that like. Now, I want to name some people that were born with Uranus and Taurus, just to give you guys a better understanding of him, of Taurus and of Uranus and Taurus. So we have John Lennon, we have Bruce Lee, we have Al Pacquiao, we have Vince Vaughn, we have Nikola Tesla, we have Jack Nicholson, Tina Turner, Muhammad Ali. So you guys are getting the point. We have a lot of originals out here, a lot of rebels too at that. And
the fixed nature of it really lets you kind of like, once you have, even if you're a Taurus and you're kind of like outside the normal beat, like once you put it out there, you stick to it. So you can really like hammer a brand home, even if people don't get it in the first try. Like Muhammad Ali and his Mars and Taurus is a fantastic example, because the endurance of like what we can do when we decided that that's the way to go, like we go and we just keep going. And he had some like enormous battles that everybody was trying to get him to put down with like the anti-war efforts and that kind of stuff. You couldn't do it. You know, there's nothing that he wouldn't do to be able to hold up to his values. And like that is such a good example.
Exactly. And Nikola Tesla, I mean, look at him. He's an inventor. He was very unorthodox. Like he was like big on just doing like living life differently from everybody else, and he always had visions of the future, and he never like let go of them.
Yeah, and he was another one. He was willing to risk it all, to not have to like give up on his creative process, like the Uranian part of him too, that was figuring out how electric went. Like he just focused so much on that one goal that he was kind of easy to manipulate in other areas, and he really was taken advantage of by Thomas Edison notably. But those are the blinders. That is like when you have like one objective and you know at all costs you have to finish that out, like what can be allowed to fall down around you if you're a Taurus who's decided to be single-minded.
Right. Now, let's talk about what happens when Uranus goes into Taurus as a transit, because that's what's happening right now. Everyone's feeling this Uranus in Taurus. If you guys look at the screen right here, this is where the little 14 is right there. That's where Uranus is. And you can see it's kind of dead smack, kind of in the middle of the Taurus energy. And so Uranus, remember, represents explosions, sudden changes into the future, destroying the old and bringing in the new. And it's in Taurus. Now, it being in Taurus, it wants to destroy the old and bring in the new. But Taurus, remember, is stubborn. To further understand this, opposite of where it's debilitated Taurus, meaning it does worse there, opposite of that is Scorpio, and that's where it does best, right? And remember, you know, debilitated planets doesn't mean it's going to have a bad effect, but it can be a little bit more tricky. But it's very powerful in Scorpio, because you guys know Scorpios represent transformations. Scorpios represent endings and beginnings. So when Uranus goes into Scorpio, it has a heyday because it gets to transform everything. But when it goes into Taurus, it still is going to do its thing, but it's going to be a little bit less of a harmony with it. And this is why. Because Scorpio is very transformative and is not afraid to change. And almost Scorpios almost expect change, but Tauruses hate change. They hate, you know, things, the structure that they built no longer being that structure, okay? They want things to be reliable, consistent. And when Uranus comes here, this is a clear indication for everyone, especially if it falls in one of your main houses, like Emily's house falls in the first house. This is a time where the old structures are no longer going to be there. And the old structures it's time to transform, okay? And if you fight what's trying to be changed from the universe, then that explosion energy is really going to be explosion. If you don't fight it
hurts more. It's like such a let go or be dragged situation. Like I tell Jason about this, but like my colorist, who's also a good friend, she has almost the exact same stellium as I do in her first house of Taurus. And we've just been supporting each other through all of this, just to be able to like take all of the leaps that keep getting put in front of us and not dig in, because like the only hard times that I've had that will like stick with me for a while with this first house transit are the times that I did not want to let go, that I really, really didn't. And like the writing was on the wall, it had to be done, but I just like postponed necessary changes for too long and it got exploded.
Exactly. So for everyone that has like certain structures in their lives, like for me, for example, here's a perfect example of Uranus and Taurus. You know, I'm an internet guy. I do webmaster work. I'm a web designer. I'm an internet marketer. Blah blah blah. and I get like zero fulfillment from that, but it pays my bills, right? But Uranus and Taurus energy suddenly is just like, oh man, this is just not for me. I want to do something different, and I know the energy, so I started doing something different. And then I didn't know what would happen from me doing something different. I just decided to do what I was getting pulled to do, and then things started happening after that, right? And that's how Uranus and Taurus is. You can't really see what's going to happen, and that's the problem. Scorpios, they know things have to transform, and they're more of a visionary sign. The Taurus, remember, it rules the senses, has to see what it's doing, has to feel what it's doing, has to taste what it's doing. So with Uranus and Taurus, it becomes a lot about faith here, because you can't see what is the universe wants to build. You can only see what the universe is trying to destroy for you, right? But you have to trust. You have to trust through that ending. There's a new beginning. Scorpio talk, right? In the darkness, there's light. So that's what Uranus is going to do. So I urge everyone, if you are feeling like certain structures are no longer the structure for you, go ahead and get on the wave. Okay. Now here's another. Adapt. Yeah. And this has a lot to do with being unique. I think that's really, really important. The universe wants us to really be in our true originality. Would you agree with that, Emily?
It's such a big deal because there's so many different places. Like whenever it comes to whatever house is ruling in your chart when it happens, I feel like that's exactly the point. If there's ways that you've like socialized yourself to fit in that are like really becoming malignant, like you're not expressing yourself the way that you should be, that kind of stuff is going to go. And that can be really painful when all of a sudden coworkers are realizing that you don't want to take the shit anymore. Like that's the kind of stuff that happens. A lot of it manifests in relationships, right? Because we get nervous about our loved ones changing in front of us and wondering if we're going to end up in the same place. And then in literal material circumstances, like sometimes you just like you sell it all, Uranus opposite Uranus is considered the midlife crisis transit because it takes about 42 years to get around to where it was. And so that shows you right there. It's like a throw it all away and start over. Like even if everybody else thinks that it's unnecessary and you have a good thing going, if you can't handle it, you can't handle it anymore.
Right, totally. And that's going to bring us into the next phase of this. We call this video the Uranus and Taurus Ape Revolution for a reason, okay? And to further talk about that, market revolution, wealth transfer, those are the type of words Emily came up with when we were planning for this video.
So this affects us all in our charts, like we're talking about in a personal place, but this is a generational planet, so it's affecting the world in a massive way. Like every time like Uranus transits one of these signs, it has like a generation that puts to like a specific vibe around it. So Taurus ruling the market, Taurus ruling money, Taurus ruling home, Taurus ruling comfort, and all of these things. And Uranus ruling revolution, like a stock market revolution was basically guaranteed. I don't think anybody could have imagined that it was going to look like Ape Nation, but I can make a really good argument that this is one of the most like Uranus and Taurus things that the country is going to see in this iteration, because it is absolutely 100% about using that stubbornness, using that unmovability to change the fucking world. Excuse my language. But look at how much we have accomplished just by refusing to do something, just by refusing to sell our shares, just by being obstinate, just by being stubborn, just by focusing on Taurus's favorite thing, our attendees, our food. Like, look how far we've gotten in all of that. It's like completely crazy. This is like a dream. I honestly, every time I say it, I like light up, because if I could do more good in the world just by refusing to do something, like the service I would have, the resume I would have of world good. I am like amazing at refusing things. So this one was made for me, for a Taurus stellium. This is like a revolution that I can fully participate in.
Oh, hell yeah. Mystic said her Taurus is in her second house, which means her Taurus is in the house it's supposed to be in for you. I'll talk to you about that later, Mystic.
A little like that's eerie. Yeah. That is a really the way that you support yourself is probably going to be changed forever. By 2024.
And you mentioned Uranus and Taurus in this whole Ape Revolution attendees, and if you guys didn't catch that, Taurus rules the taste. Okay, so and we're talking about tendies and money, and it's it's so
Money
funny.
and food become interchangeable at that point. Like that is just like Uranus sneaking it in. Like now we're all like living in the mindset, and our future wealth depends on behaving like Taurian, like couch potatoes in a certain sense. Like because a big part of it is like getting comfortable. Like right now, everybody is like getting kind of antsy. This air moon's got everybody whipped up. Somebody was giving like dates of like we're gonna have squeezage happening today and tomorrow, which if anybody's curious, like I don't think the moon phases actually support that. Like there might be some ups and downs, but we have a beautiful new moon that's
So
really
beautiful.
exciting coming on Friday. But somehow everybody's starting to kind of like in anticipation get a little antsy. Like the solution to this, like I would argue, is like to settle back down, to get comfortable, take your shoes off, you know, like be at home with each other, like put the relaxation and the chill back on it, and we almost always like vibe correct. Like we almost always get back on the track whenever we can like settle each other and kind of just get into it. Then we get theme songs and we get all of this fun things, and before we know it, the price is shooting up again. But it just never ever works the way that it's supposed to if you're like pushing too hard against the grain. And Taurus knows not to waste the energy.
Right, and I think you guys have to remember that hedge funds also have the same exact transit. Okay, and this is remember, you know, Taurus, Uranus and Taurus is fighting the change, and that's what they're doing. They're fighting us, the change, and and they're being super, 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 super stubborn about it because they feel like just like we feel the need to rebel and be stubborn about it, they feel the same exact energy, and they probably feel it worse than us because they had such a strong structure before this Uranus Taurus.
Yeah, exactly. And they can see, like, that's where we came up with the term wealth transfer, too. Because this is about, like, a turning of the wheel of fortune. So if we're the ones that have been, like, living on ramen for however long to take every, like, spare bit of our paycheck that we can to keep putting into it, that's, like, a full turn for us, right? Like, we can see which direction we're supposed to go in. But, like, somebody's been on the top, and they have to come back around down to the bottom. And using those same things, like he just said, like, that whole digging in, like the low vibe Taurus part is going to wreck them. Like it just keeps getting worse and worse. And the entire world is watching, being like, what the fuck are you doing? Sorry for the language again. But like everybody is seeing this and nobody can get through to it. It is the bull that's refusing to move until it is like forced out with like the worst, most extreme measures.
Right, and we're the bull in this situation. And remember what I said: once you get the bull going, it's very, very hard to stop it. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we are definitely winning this AMC battle all day.
We're so winning, even though it doesn't feel like it. Even though these moments keep coming up, because we're exhausted. Everybody's exhausted. This is like such a heightened state that you have to be in for so long, which is really like why I'm so grateful that I found your work when I did, because it made it easier to relax into the moon cycles and rest when it was time to rest. You know, to see that pattern so clearly laid out, and it has been so clearly laid out, those waning moons, it's a really good time to tune out. It's a really good time to like take care of yourself and restore, because they're boring. There's just not, unless there's like a major catastrophic like bloody aspect coming up, it's just like sideways. We're just consolidating, which is amazing. We're consolidating in the 50s. Like how are we? That's amazing. That's crazy. How much of us, we've been here, some of us, since 8, since 9, since it dropped to 5, and we bought in at 15. The fact that we're like still sitting at 50 after all these weeks, and are we still at 50?
No, we're at exactly 50 right now.
Oh my gosh, look at me just calling it up.
Yeah.
I have it programmed into my brain at this point. I watched so much of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all good news, even though it doesn't feel like it. It's all such good news. And there's so many different ways that this has been, like, frankly, foreseen in the stars. Like, we're hitting so many, like, planetary transits that describe exactly this. You will never convince me that this wasn't meant to be, and that this isn't going to change things, like, set off ripple effects into the rest of the world that are going to open up new generations coming in. Like, I think it's, like, literally that important what we're doing right now.
Right. And I want to talk a little bit about the house system, since Mystic named that her Taurus is in her second house. Taurus naturally rules the second house, and Uranus naturally rules the 11th house. So understand Taurus is to understand a second, understand Uranus, or to further understand them is to understand the houses, and Uranus is the 11th. So Taurus, what Mystic has in the second house is everything you value. So a lot of times it has a lot to do with money, okay, because we all value money. And so Uranus is transiting Taurus energy, and for all of us, we all are thinking about new ways of making money. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but suddenly everyone's in the stock market. And this was happening before the AMC thing. A lot of new people were coming to the stock market, and that's obviously because people are thinking about new ways to activate their second house of savings, of their money. And it's funny because a lot of us had an explosion of their second house. I don't know about you, but I had some money in my savings, and I got detached from it, and I was like, let me throw it all in the market. I don't care what happens. You know what I mean? And that's Uranus affecting that second house energy. And Mystic, especially, is changing the way she values her whole life, changing the way she values how she goes after her money. And she's probably going to be very successful with that, having it in Taurus.
I would also throw in that it is unlikely when you end this transit, Mystic, how you allow yourself to be valued is going to be 100% different too, because it's not just what you value, it's how the value you place on yourself. Self-esteem can fall into this house a lot. So I would totally expect to see really major concrete changes in all of it. Which, if you think about it, the whole valuing yourself is important, especially for those of us that are spiritual workers. We set our own prices. Everybody I know that does this has usually priced themselves way too low, because you just want the gift of doing the work. You just want to be able to do that with people. But that seems to be a very Uranian thing that people go through when they realize that that's not it. It never was it. It's time to raise the prices. It's time to put your chest into it. All of that stuff can be themes arising.
Right. And now let's talk about the 11th house. Now, the 11th house is the Aquarius house, and Aquarius is the water barrier, and it's the symbol of the person going to the well, taking the water out of the well, and giving the people water, giving the people their own life force. And that's what the 11th house is about. It's about society, and it's about society coming together and having their own life force, having their own mission, their own collective. That's what Uranus is about, ruling the 11th house. And look at what we've done as a society. Look at how we're changing society. Look at how society has been changing. So you can clearly see this 11th house activity happening. And that's the perfect example of why we named this the revolution, okay? Because Uranus is bringing change to the entire world.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same. None of it's going to be the same after this is over. But this is a really big part of that process of where sometimes you have to there has to be demolition, before there can be new construction. You have to get rid, literally eviscerate the old to make sure there's room for new structures that have to come in. And especially, oh my gosh, I just can't even, the stock market was so overdue. And that's nobody's fault here. In saying that, people way above our pay grade have broken this shit to the point that it may not be able to exist in its current state much longer. And certainly it's going to be in scary territory after the squeeze is closed, because they fucked around so hard. It's breathtaking that this is happening again after what they did in 2008 and what they did and all this kind of stuff. Obviously the government can't control it. The people don't have a huge say unless we're just being one big massive stubborn stockholders and doing whatever else. So something planetary has to come in. Something galactic has to intervene at that point, because it can't be done in the mortal realm. That much we know. It is not going to be anything on God's earth that convinces these hedgies to sell at this point, or get their shorts covered. It is going to have to be the planets firing everything down on them at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's going to be a nasty explosion, because they're clearly fighting it hard. So, Emily, before we jump into the live readings, and guys, if you guys want to do a live reading, just go ahead and go into the Zoom call. Make sure I have your birthday. Now, Emily, I have Uranus in my 7th house right now, opposite my Pluto.
Right.
Give me a reading on that.
That is obviously the way that you relate is being like transformed inside out and isn't going to be the same after you finish these transits.
Yeah.
What's hard about that is that you have Pluto opposing your seventh house anyways. Like that is already like very hard to live with, let alone when it gets pinged. But because that is such a heavy thing, like you have to be paying attention to what works and what doesn't, and just be very on top of your own side of relating before it gets done for you. Like you already like know that advice and all that kind of stuff, but you are in so many other ways, especially with a lot of transits, you're in a very like you're building right now. There's a lot of building that's happening. And so the stuff that isn't working has to get blown out.
Yeah.
And you're probably not even paying attention to it with everything that's like going on, but there's going to be more arguments and there's going to be more instant moments of like, wow, we're on the same page. It's going to be a lot of that until you have like a new perception of how you want to interact with the people that matter the most to you.
Yeah, so true, so true. And I'm rebelling, but in a more peaceful way too, which is kind of interesting. I think if Uranus was in Taurus or in Scorpio, I would act a little bit more intense about it. But I've been...
That's so cool. Like it's actually helping give you a little bit of pause.
Right,
so
exactly.
That you can like slow down the revolution and make sure you're like where you want to be with that.
And now that I'm thinking about it, since opposite my Pluto in Scorpio, and that's in my first house, I'm also changing the way I deal with people. I'm becoming less scorpionic about it, less like sharp cuts, you could say, and I'm being more Venus about it and being more like elegant about it, you could say.
Yeah. Because it is in opposition to your Pluto, but it's also activating that Venus in the seventh house. Like you have a benefic in, so obviously we already know that this, and Venus is in domicile, like that's where she's the baddest bitch. Like this is going to be positive. Like this is going to be something that's so good for you in the end. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be like comfortable while you're on the way into it. But the Pluto in the first means that you are kind of here to wield some measure of power. And making sure that like that is a fair exchange and not something that you're abusing could be another theme that's coming up, and how those ethics are built to you, like that own like self, like what you have to hold inside yourself to deal with other people is probably going to be something that's up for review too.
Right. And if you guys have Uranus in any of the social houses, that would be the 7th house, like I have, the 11th house or the 3rd house. You guys are also going to feel similar situations. Another thing this is doing, putting Uranus in my 7th house, is it could bring other people around me rebellion, okay? Because this is not just about how I'm dealing with people, but this is also how they are dealing with me.
So another thing, because I actually, like natally, I have Uranus in my 7th house, which is really like a tricky, that's like your Pluto in the first. That's a big one for me, and it's got good and bad manifestations. But Uranus also rules astrologers. So this is totally a time where it makes sense that you would be developing more relationships with other astrologers.
Yeah.
And making those stronger, to make your own like practice stronger.
You know what's funny you say that?
Well, like that actually is on brand.
Yeah, and I have a 0-degree Uranus. So my Uranus is crazy. And they say it's 0-degree Uranus is like a split, especially where I have it in between Sag and Cap. It's like a split into like a crease into like the universe, and you get like more of a connection, more of an antenna.
Yeah, that's like quantum leap energy.
Yeah.
That's a portal that could be activated at some point for sure.
Yeah. And of course here I am doing my Uranus Sagittarius thing, right? Because Uranus is unique. Sagittarius is talking about wisdom and knowledge, and I'm over here doing like financial astrology with my 0-degree Uranus right now. So that's hilarious. It makes total sense.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to hit Joey. Joey, you still in here? Joey has his Uranus in his 10th house. So that's one of the big time houses. Just so you guys know, the first
house.
Yeah.
What an adventure you must be having right now.
So true. Any of the angular houses, guys, are really, really, really potent houses, okay? You can see a lot of personality there. You can see a lot of changes there. And that would be the first, 4th, 7th, or 10th house. First house is you, your persona, your projection. 4th house is your home, your soul, everything you're most comfortable with, everything you're closest to. 7th house is one-on-one relationships, partnerships. And 10th house is everything you're doing in the world, your placement in the world, how you carry yourself in the world, how other people see you in the world. So Joey, he has his Uranus going over his 10th house. So that's a clear indication that he's going to be changing how he's participating in the world. Whether that's forced change or change he's bringing in, he's going to be changing what he's doing in this world. He's going to be changing how he's dealing with people in the world, how he does deals in general may just become unorthodox. What do you think, Emily?
So first disclaimer, the 10th house is a public house. So like whatever journey you're having with this probably has a little bit of an audience. Or if you have been a really public person before, you could be like trying to put more privacy into it. But it's definitely something that has to do with like reputation and standing, and sometimes this can be like an opportunity that comes out of the blue. And if anything like that does start coming up, especially in like the next 4 years or has come up, definitely consider just saying yes. Like, just don't even equivocate. Just see what's going to happen with it, because changes aren't coming your way on accident if they're anything career related. And yeah, I think that's about it for right now.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see the rest of his transits and see like where that's,
yeah, Joey,
what it's hitting.
Get in here so we can see all your transits. But
got any birth times?
Yeah. To further emphasize what's going to happen with this Uranus and Taurus in your 10th house story, whatever ideas that you have, I don't care how crazy they are, you should just go after them right now, because you have some serious manifestation mojo going on. You're going to have some serious, like, interesting ideas going on, and the most, no matter how, the more original it is, the more you know you're supposed to be on that wave, okay? Because what you want to think right now with Uranus in your 10th house is no one has done what you're thinking you want to do. It's going to be original to everything that's been done already, so there's no blueprint for you, and that's what makes it exciting, okay? When I started this financial astrology thing, I didn't really have a blueprint. I just started doing and making it up as I go, and that's that Uranus / Aquarius energy is a mad scientist. All right, so we have to become a mad scientist like Tesla was, and make our lives uniquely the way we see fit, no matter how crazy, no matter how out there that may be. And it looks like we have George in here, so I'm gonna bring George in here in a second. Shout out to Sandy Brown, what's up? Purely Unbounded, what's up, homie? Shonda, Scorpio astrologer. Okay, more Scorpio in the house. I hope you're in our Discord. We got a lot of Scorpios in there. And Saturn Solstice, what's up? Definitely happy to see you here again. Let's see what some of these comments said. I'm digging into this channel, especially since Uranus transiting my 5th house. Okay, Uranus transiting the 5th house is a great time for anything speculative, to take risk. That's an awesome risk-taking transit right there. But you don't want to like do anything too crazy, because that could be a little, you might feel a huge need to take risks for that one, but you'll probably be successful at the same time. I'll have to see your whole chart.
Yeah, that's what I love about Uranus being in Taurus. Like, sometimes a planet in detriment is a good thing for us all, because like Taurus is risk averse. So if you can pull on a little bit of that while you're making these changes, I like feel like you might be happier with them long term, to keep you from like shooting from the hip. But sometimes you have to answer the call and just like, throw it all away and start over. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going for you.
Yes, exactly. All right, I'm gonna let George in here.
Okay.
Let's see. I think this is George from last time. Let's see. George, oh wait, he's connecting. He's connecting. George, what's good?
Oh wow, what's good, dude?
What's up? How you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man.
Perfect. So I want to make sure I have the right profile. We have George, March 7th, 2000, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right. I'm pulling it up right now and put it on the screen for you guys to see.
Do you have a birth time?
Yeah, 1:07 a.m.
Okay.
How you guys doing today?
I'm great. I chatted it to you, Emily.
Awesome.
I'm great. I felt like we really needed to just like distract ourselves today. I mean, it's...
Yeah, community was was definitely necessary because there's just too much to like. I'm so glad that we're getting this time to like be like a little bit one-on-one because online is really there's a lot of emotion out there.
Yep, sure is. Okay, George. So let's see where this Uranus falls for you. So if you guys are looking at the screen, you guys should be able to see the chart. And let's see. Let me make sure you guys see that. Yep, you guys can. All right. So George, it looks like your Uranus. This Uranus is falling in your 5th house, and it's conjunct your Saturn 0 degrees. Whoa. Okay. That's pretty intense, but I like it. So he has Uranus hitting his 5th house. We're just talking about that for Shonda. The 5th house is speculative. All right, the 5th house is risk-taking house, but it's the house after the 4th. So it has a lot to do with family, has a lot to do with children, has a lot to do with father. Children need to be educated, has a lot to do with education. Children need to be entertained, has a lot to do with entertain. Kids love to entertain, so it has a lot to do with entertainment, has a lot to do with a celebrity. After you raise the kids and you educate the kids, you send them off into the world. You don't know what's going to happen, so that becomes speculative. So the 5th house is a very speculative house. Kids are also very creative, so it's a very creative house. I have a stellium in the 5th house, so you guys know I'm a creative as a motherfucker. And so I bet George is too. And the 5th house also has to do with romance because you need romance to make children. So the 5th house has a lot to do with romance and having fun and all that good stuff. So the 5th house is actually fun house, celebrity house, education house, speculative house. Teachers come from this house as well. George has his Jupiter in the 5th house. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was into teaching. Are you into teaching, George?
Yeah, dude, I got my own Discord, dude.
Oh, shout it out.
I'm studying.
What's your Discord?
Yeah, dude. It's not shit. I mean, it's called Chain Gang, but it's my own little Discord for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I put my research and my studies, and I correlate everything. It's all like everything that I'm studying, and I channel it. Well, for the most part, right now, my main study is channeling like solar and geomagnetic activity.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And the whole electromagnetic field and how it affects people's moods and everything, and how that in turn with all the planets and the moon phases and everything, and how that correlates with the financial markets. And I'm finding some pretty cool stuff. So it's basic for myself just to keep everything organized. And
that's a direct hit. That is as like Uranian Taurus energy as you could possibly get in the 5th house. Like figuring out how like seismic shifts are and the electromagnetic, like that is like it. That could totally be. That's so cool. Were you doing that before 2018 or is that recent?
Just recent this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, George, when you're ready to bring some of your research to the light, let us know because we're all curious about that type of DD, okay? And we're all learning together.
Yeah, you found the right community for that. Like, we eat that stuff up.
Yeah. And I found you guys out. I was just looking at, like, just all kinds of astrology, and I started trying to do, hey, what's your name? Let's see. And the homie right here, the homie that's running it, what's your name again? I know that your name is like Neptune.
The Blue Moon of Neptune. Jason Alexander, the Blue Moon of Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah. So you also have Uranus conjunct your Saturn. So that's pretty big. You especially are in that transit of destroying the old and bringing in the new. Okay, because Saturn, you guys, Saturn's right here. Saturn's what rules how we build all our structures, how we build our reality in general. And so if you have Saturn in Taurus, first of all, you have Saturn in Earth signs, so that's good. Saturn wants to be there. But Saturn becomes very stuck in its ways right here. You're very big on the structures it sees and the consistency of those structures. Now, luckily for you, you are a Sagittarius. So you are very mutable. You got a Cancer. Oh no, you don't have Cancer. You have a Pisces sun. You're also very mutable. So you definitely know how to change. Okay, but there are certain structures in your life that you're probably feeling that's going to change, and you could be fighting that a little bit because you, especially having Uranus here, is a huge indication that some of the structures you've built or certain structures around you are going to fall to bring in the new. Do you resonate with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, I feel that right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I left my job, and so I make money right now. It's all way of making money.
Yep.
It's a whole different. Money I don't know. It's kind of like my own little business, but I feel like I've been recycling different things, throwing some things down into the dirt, let it recycle, let it come right back around. put things down, stick around, come right back to, pick it up maybe another time later. But yeah, I'm like, it's time to switch it up, dude.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I always tell like my cousins and stuff, like, you know, everything's like the seasons, man. Just go with the flow, man. Let it come through. If you got like a little time, you feeling like a little down or feeling a little weird, I don't know. One of my homies said, you know, it's like a little storm, man. Just embrace it, let it go by, and then there's gonna be another day, man. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. Just taking everything one day at a time, making a lot of artwork, making my music. So right now I feel like that's like a time for that. Maybe next week I might just be chilling. Might just be chilling, taking a vacation or something. So I'm just gonna feel it.
Emily, you got anything you want to say?
I do. I have quite a lot, actually. So because you're Sagittarius rising, your chart ruler, George, is Jupiter, which is also in your 5th house, right next to all this activation that's happening. So that means that some part of this 5th house stuff, whether it's your children, whether it's like the love, the gambling, the sort of like the brainstorms that become like right in between like a hobby that just makes you a ton of money, the speculation, the gambling, all of these things could be becoming big parts of your personality because they're coming back into your 1st house of identity and self. So there's some connection between those two things. And because Jupiter is in domicile right now, and he is your chart ruler in domicile, I would take a big look at anything that's happening between the 4th week of July and started in like the 3rd week of May. Anything in this period is probably a really good preview for what 2022 is going to look like for you. When Jupiter moves back into Pisces, these themes are going to like be actualized and actually be able to like come to life in a bigger way. So you're also getting a sneak peek of like what next year is going to be.
Beautiful.
Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm listening now. Hey, thank you guys for breaking everything down, because I'm like pretty new to all this. Like, just understand. Yeah, these little conversations, I listen to you guys speak on the side. Like, I'm just picking everything up right here. I really find it interesting. And I do know that it does play a part. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, George, before we let you go, do you have any last questions for us?
Not really, man. I'm just listening.
George, I like you, man. You're such a go with the flow guy. Guys, just so you know, George has his moon in Pisces. I have my moon in Pisces. Oh no, his moon is in Aries, but it's close enough to Pisces, cusping.
I have my moon in Aries.
Wow.
So you're compatible with one of us at all times, George.
Yeah.
That's my question. What does that mean? Moon in Aries. What does that mean?
Oh.
Don't get me started. We just had like over the weekend we had like an Aries moon, and I had to have bodyguards to stop myself from sending fiery texts that would have been so inappropriate by the time the moon moved into Taurus. A Mars ruled moon can be very, very, very there's a lack of impulse control. Like, let's put it that way. You have to always, forever, for the rest of your life, watch any like messages or communications that are overly heated, because it's too easy to get wrapped up in like all of that like super drive and all that kind of stuff, and just fire off stuff that you're going to regret later. But there's also a lot of, I don't know, I find it really hard to deal with, so I'm not a good person to talk to because I'm so biased. I would do anything for a Taurus moon. I'm so close. I'm like 3 degrees away from it. But I got that 28-degree Aries, and like that's just my cross to bear.
Well, okay, Aries moon. First of all, this is a strong as fuck position. Strong as fuck. Aries and Scorpios are very, very strong energies, and you have to be able to harness this stuff because it's that strong. Now, the moon is our emotional pull on things. It's how we feel emotionally. Aries is a spark. It's the very first sign of the zodiac. It's also a very original sign because it's the first sign. So Aries moon people, since the moon rules our energy, our emotions, first of all, they have an endless supply of energy. Like a fucking endless supply of energy. They're practically an energizer bunny. Straight up.
Our inspiration levels run really high too. That's one of the perks of it. Like we have more channels into instant kind of creativity. When something like catches our imagination, we're quick to go with that. For better, for worse, and to see what's over there. So that's one of the perks.
Yeah. And since Aries rules war, it rules competition, it rules passion, it rules taking action, you always like Aries moon people, like when they get passionate about something, it's like no stopping that energy. There's no stopping that mission. They almost have like a tunnel vision. It's like a football player, a running back running down the field trying to score a touchdown. They just become super focused on whatever mission they have, and that's why they're very powerful people. They could be very intense for this reason too. Like you don't want to get in the way of a ram. That's what they are. Aries is a ram, and they'll run you over. Okay, and there's two signs I don't mess with. I don't mess with Scorpios because if you beat them, they'll transform and come back later. And I don't mess with Aries because they never will stop. They will always keep coming. Facts. Do you agree with that, George?
Yeah.
Shit, man, you just hit me with the big old field of everything. I'm just comprehending still, man.
Well, you're gonna have to call, or you're gonna have to call or rewatch this later and just listen to that again. But okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there. I appreciate you calling. Your chart is looking very sexy. You got a lot of transformations going on, but I love that you're riding that wave. Heard it from a Sun Pisces. Ride the wave, ride the energy. Take it one day at a time. You're going to be straight. George, until next time, hope to see you again, homie. Thanks for joining.
All right, peace out, man. Yeah, take it easy.
All right, peace.
All right, take it easy, man.
Okay, wow. George, I appreciate you calling. So you guys heard
He's got
it.
some big stuff happening. We could do like a bunch with him.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Shonda, are you calling in? There's nothing but Scorpios in here. There's nothing but Scorpios here.
My favorites. Give us some Scorpio. Absolutely.
We all love Scorpios. Who's calling in? Purely Unbounded? I see you in here. Who wants to get it? Who wants to get the next reading? Or who wants to shout out where their Taurus is in their chart? Where's the Taurus in your chart?
Where are you being revolutionized?
Then they should understand. Not scared of the Aries. They are the...
Yeah, because they really are. They're the first sign of the zodiac. They're like too easy. They are too easy to run around because they don't have any concept of like a lot of stuff other than, and this is only if Aries didn't have any other places, but it's the sign of the id. You know, everything's me, and it can be very immature. Like if it's not channeled into the right place. That's funny. I like how you said that.
Yeah.
The fetuses of the zodiac.
It's so true. Wow, we got a lot of people with Taurus in the 10th house. Saturn Solstice just said that. So, I mean, huge way of living life. Huge different way of how you're putting yourself in the world and how you're going to attack your career. And I think I remember we talked about you coming out into the light more, you getting out there more. This is a perfect time to do that if Uranus is in your 10th house. Whatever you've been doing, do it differently now. Okay? If you're fighting, if you feel like things... If you have a pull to do something different, that's what you should be doing, no matter how scary it is. In fact, it's supposed to feel scary because we're not supposed to see what's going to happen with it in Taurus, okay? We're just supposed to ride that wave. And
so we have from Shonda, she's got Taurus in the 5th too, like George, which is really like, so there's a lot of those themes at play, but like the 5th house, obviously, the house of creation, when it comes in a woman's chart versus when it comes in a man's chart, takes on some very different views. So like one of the first things I would go to are you expecting to, unplanned pregnancy could definitely be a theme that like is coming up or changing that.
Oh wow, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like that is a very like surprise, baby left on the doorstep, something like that. If you are participating in any of the stock stuff that's going on with the YOLO, and especially if it's become your main pastime, like I would say that's very like Uranus and Taurus energy being right there. But regardless, everything about the way that you play, the way that you create, what that looks like for you, like what makes you feel like love and pleasure and like all of these 5th house things, that's all up for review. And you might be really surprised by some of the things that start like delighting you. Like the 5th house is a house of delights. And that is a really interesting place to see like where that changes and like what it is that gets you out of bed in the morning and like what it is that like puts that sparkle in your eye when everything else sucks. Like that is all the realm of like the 5th house and inspiration. So do you have any benefics? First time ever in the stock market, right on. And this is probably, I mean, if you went in on AMC or GME, like that's going to be a really that's going to be an addictive gamble because it's going to pay off in a big way.
Yeah, big way, big way. Uranus is a gas planet. It's huge. I don't know if it's a gas planet, but it's a huge planet, one of the biggest, and it tends to change things in a huge way. And I think it's important to remember that outer planets change us in a very subconscious way too. So even subconsciously, we're changing, and we won't even realize it. Especially if it's hitting one of those big houses like the first, seventh, 10th, or the fourth. Especially the fourth house.
That's so important to say because this is going through your fifth house, like because you're an astrologer. This is 7-8 years. Like that is change that has to have a while to unfold, even if it is sudden and unexpected. Like it's a long-term process. It's a cumulative thing. Like it's not something that just kind of like at the end of it, at least I think this is how it's going to go because it's going through my first house. But like I already halfway through am an entirely different person than I was when I started this. But putting in those moments of what's caused it would be even hard for me to say because it's just this constant kind of like explosion on explosion on explosion until you're like, oh my gosh, I really like the landscape now.
Right. And I guess while we wait for, because I think Purely Unbounded is going to come in soon. Let's give them a little taste. This little taste on what we see when Uranus goes into Gemini in a few years. Oh, yeah. Just a little taste. Just a tap taste.
Okay. Yeah, we should talk about it. We were having so much fun. But this is really kind of important when it starts to ingress into Gemini because the signs and the warnings are everywhere. Uranus in Gemini is a technological revolution. Okay, there's a changeability there. The technology part, I think we need to be a little bit concerned about because some of the themes are kind of already prevailing themselves. There's two things that I think are going to be really like worrisome, and one is automation, jobs being lost because more like robotics and AI are taking it, and the second one is billionaires in space, man, because they are honestly like they are all gearing up to like leave us burning behind in this like massive like. There is a reason that so many of them have to like explore Mars at the same time right now. And I think that is going to be something that we see where it's like too many resources are going to fund these like private explorations in space and everybody else is going to like, it's going to have like a duality to it, like cause more class warfare because Gemini is a sign too. It's a mutable thing. So there's going to be polar opposites happening in here. Whatever's happening is going to be like really divisive. And it looks like it's going to be the robot revolution,
right?
Honestly.
Right. And you guys, we're talking about when Uranus goes in Gemini a few years from now, but it's something I think we all should be thinking about and conscious of because you saw how Uranus changed everything in Taurus. It's going to have a similar effect in Gemini, but it's going to be 1 billion times faster. Would you agree with that, Emily?
Yeah, so when Uranus was lost in Gemini, this was like the 40s, basically. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that was happening that like you had like washing machines and you had more appliances that were like letting like housewives get away from the housework that they were doing and actually creating new lifestyles and like independence for women. But then all of that comes at the expense of like electricity consumption and like the kind of like once that technology is set off in the new direction, we've seen how much growth we've had until we come to the next Uranus in Gemini. And that is going to set off a whole new wave of development that, like, honestly, like, I can, like, guess, like, it's going to be robots, it's going to be more industries automated, there's going to be more, but we don't know because it is Uranus. So, like, that's going to be, like, a surprise to all in some sense. I can guess, and I do think billionaires in space is going to be a part of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, guys, if you guys haven't hit that like, let's get the likes up to 8, my favorite number. That's my number. Now, okay. Yeah. Now... She talked a lot about, technology taking off and a lot of artificial intelligence and automation, and that's for sure going to happen, okay? One of the things that Uranus and Taurus is doing right now is the ways of making money. The ways we've been making money aren't going to really be here much longer. A lot of it's going to change rapidly, and it's going to be a lot of to do with those consistent type jobs we used to have. To name a few,
Manual labor, because like the bull is a beast of burden as well. Like as hard as that sounds, but like a Taurus, like middle class person, somebody who did really well in a Ford factory, like that would be very on brand and stuff like that. But those last like havens of where that kind of like human interfacing in jobs, I think is going to be much less of a thing, and especially in a capitalist society, like we sell our labor. That is how we participate in that. Like we are useful in as much as like we are providing like labor into the overall structure or services or something like that. So if that gets taken out of the question and we're no longer like essential workers of the country, like what is that going to look like for those of us that have been doing that in the working class? Between that and Neptune moving into Aries, which we know is going to bring a big fight on it, and Pluto return of the stock market exchange, right? All of these are popping off in a very short window in 24, 25, I want to say. Is that right, Jason?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh god, it's so close. Like I just lost my breath there. I know I'm always the one that's like going too dystopia to be like, oh yeah, but when you add them all up together, like it does look like a little dystopian. I'm glad that we have each other to like power through. Like the collective is going to be very important in the coming years.
Yeah, right, totally. And before I get purely unbounded in there, I want to give one more. I want to say one more thing about that. Emily, I'm gonna text you his birthday if you want to put it in your system. So it's so obvious to me, like basically when Uranus goes in Taurus, if you're in the delivery service business, you might want to just start finding another way to get in to make money, because Gemini rules.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so smart.
Yeah.
The transportation, the drones that are going to be coming in and dropping off, like that is so
yeah. Amazon drivers are not going to have a thing anymore. Delivery, like mail delivery, might not be a thing anymore. Definitely Uber is not going to be a thing anymore. Tesla is definitely going to take that over. Just anything that deals with traveling is definitely pretty much, unfortunately, guys, it's never going to be the same. That is for sure when Gemini. And you know what else is going to change too? It's going to be a lot less human contact and a lot more internet stuff going on. That is another thing.
I would definitely catch up on some Black Mirror episodes.
Yeah.
I think that they are channeling a lot right now, and there's tons that is happening there. It's definitely, there's going to be more of, human contact. Maybe that's going to be something like with the post-viral thing, like people
virtual.
Are just going to stay weird.
Everything's going to be, it's going to be super virtualized.
You can kind of like shuttle everybody into it, like stack us up like Legos, and just everybody has to stay in their pod.
So true. All right, I'm going to let Purely Unbounded in. That's my guy. Another Scorpio in the house. Let's go. All right, here's his chart.
Yeah, I think I've seen this one before.
Yeah, so he has it right where I have it. And wow, no way. We both have it opposite our Pluto. Wow. Me and him both have it in our 7th house opposite our Pluto is literally right now. That's
What's the degree, Jason, of your Pluto?
12. Retrograde.
Yeah. So you guys should be feeling a little bit of easing up. Like this is like stuff that was really pressure cooking for you for like a couple months ago. But we have a retrograde.
Yes.
So that point is gonna get like run back over 2 more times.
I know. Saturn's doing the same thing to my.
Much more on the way.
Yeah, it's like whoa. So all right, Purely Unbounded. So obviously, Scorpio or Pluto has a lot to do with transformations. And Uranus has a lot to do with sudden changes into the future. It's opposing your Pluto in the 1st house, and that opposes your Sun in the 1st house. So you are for sure feeling this, and you're going to be feeling this for a long time, just like I'm feeling this for a long time. But you have it a little bit more intensely. Well, we both have it kind of intense because mine is also conjunct my Venus, okay? So we both have a little bit of a double intensity here. But having it opposite your Sun and Pluto, this has in your 1st house, this has a lot to do with how you identify with yourself, especially with how you identify with yourself and other people, okay? Because the 1st house is self and how you project yourself, 7th house how you deal with other people. So you yourself is going to be feeling rebellious a little bit, and other people around you could be feeling rebellious. You're going to have a more unique approach to how you're dealing with people, especially how you deal with your power with other people, okay? Because Pluto has a lot to do with power, how you give away your power, how you use your power, how you receive your power. and then also how you identify with your power. So you're really looking at relationships and identifying the power there, identifying the where the structure is strong or where it's not strong, or where the structures need to be changed, and what no longer agrees with your new persona, your new personality, your new projection. What do you think, Emily?
I was remembering something from being like a natal Uranus in the seventh, and that, as well as suddenly people pop up into your path that just take you onto a new direction altogether. Like, this can be change that's brought about by like connections that you meet very suddenly, very randomly, somebody that is outside the norm of who you would normally be dealing with or hanging out. Like, those are normally like pretty intriguing places to travel down if that kind of stuff starts popping up in the path. And especially because it is opposing Pluto and you have Sun here, this could be pulling in figures of influence, frankly, like putting you in the path of somebody who has the potential to exercise power in your favor or against you. Powerful people popping up into your sphere. And it could put you in the position of having power to exercise over somebody, or new power and control over yourself in a really sudden way. But this is something that is going to get expressed through the people, the contracts, and the relationships in your life. Like, that's where the revolution lives right now.
Beautiful. So, Purely Unbounded, John, talk to us. How you feeling, man? We kind of went in just right off the rip. Didn't even say what's up.
Hey, I have that effect on people.
Yeah. That's that Scorpio. That's that Scorpio.
I'm loving it. Actually, I'm kind of curious about what kind of people are going to pop up in my life now.
Well, the cool thing about it is me and you are going through exactly the same thing right now, like straight up. And she said that like you're going to be running around powerful people, and I feel like suddenly I'm around all these Scorpios opposite Pluto, and you guys are all super powerful. Like, I literally feel your power. I feel you guys' power.
Your agents have changed. That's another good grab. Like, Scorpios are the original like transformation agents.
Right.
So Scorpio, I mean, like, so you might very well be the one that's coming in and causing these like internal revolutions for the people that you meet right now.
Well, he's definitely done that with me. And by the way, guys, if you guys didn't know, Purely Unbounded was the one that got me to start the Discord. He also has his own Discord you guys need to check out. It's called Feral
Conversation.
Yep. And yeah, you're definitely here to bring those changes. But I want you to also practice letting people bring change to you, because you as a Scorpio rising fixed sign, you as a Sun Scorpio fixed sign, you as a Pluto Scorpio conjunct the Sun, all in the first house, you especially may have a hard time, not a hard time, but all Scorpios don't want to be like in a place where they feel vulnerable, right? But I think for you especially is a really good time to you just listen to people around you and see how they're trying to transform you, and you kind of like let other people transform you for a little bit, because you're so used to transforming others. You feel me on that?
Let go of control and let other people control.
Yeah, just see what happens, because you could be so caught up in, your narrative and how you want the narrative to go that you might be missing some opportunities for other people to bring new narratives to you. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And when I say this, I'm saying this to myself. If there's some relationships that are not working, that are just kind of like, clearly needing to be broken, don't fight it. I mean, because it is going to happen to us, right? With the Uranus in the seventh house, and it's really doing it to bring in the right people, bring in more, especially for you, bring in more people that are going to match up with your identity, like-minded people with the same conscious wave as you.
And the same thing applies to Jason. Like, this is also a placement that could be pulling in astrologers, and metaphysical workers that work within those Uranian realms of like energy transfer and all that kind of stuff. And because you're actually in a ninth house perfection year, like, you are having a ninth house experience to begin with, and the rest of this is just highlighting points of that. I would absolutely look for inspiration in the circles where you are doing all this really inventive stuff. Like what you and Jason are doing in that Discord, and like what all the original Moonlord mods and all that, that's very original, at least to me. I don't know if there's another one around. Like it's a really unique community and kind of conversation. And I think that is like, that is what it is. Like there is definitely, that's where the seeds are coming from right now. Like it's already exposed itself a little bit, but there's going to be like more, there's more freedom on the way, whatever is kind of like kicking off in these. So don't be afraid to just like jump down those rabbit holes that they get presented to you, and make relationships with conspiracy theorists. Like you just do like all of it if you want to, if it feels good. And if it's really like weird and out there, but there's only 2 of you that speak that language, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Like this kind of like, who can you be like the most outspoken, right? The most like wild, the most controversial. Like who are those people that you can like hold that space with and not have to like lock anything down? That's also an important recipe. Like you have to be able to speak like the wildest parts of your soul, or things that aren't really sustainable.
Right. And to get more information on what's going on with you, John, we're going to look at your Pluto, because your Pluto, me and you have the same exact degree Pluto, okay? So we both have a Pluto square Saturn, 0 degrees, oh shit. And we both have a Pluto square Saturn, 0 degrees, and of course the Pluto opposite Uranus. So, you know, Saturn has a lot to do with our structure, how we structure our lives, and it's happening in your 4th house, just like me. Your home, the things that people that are closest to you, what you're most comfortable with, all that's kind of changing. Me and you both have to kind of get used to the idea right now that the things that are closest to us, relationships that may be closest to us, could be changing with this 4th, 7th, and 10th aspects going on here. Now, having Pluto square your Venus, with your Venus is in your 10th house, that tells me that since Venus has to do with relationships, and Uranus in your 7th house relationships, and it's ruled by Venus, right? That tells me Venus in your 10th house, the people that are leaving your life are the people who aren't going to take you to the life you need to go to the destiny you need to go to the place you need to go to the world. Because Uranus in your 10th house or Venus in your 10th house is kind of getting all the people in your life that don't need to be there for your career, don't need to be there for the long term, out. Okay, and making room for the new. Would you agree with that, Emily?
Yeah, I would. And as I'm like looking through this, I feel like I say this with every chart that we get these days, but I'm like going to say it again because like this is, like there isn't that much more. Like there are a few things that show that you are like supposed to have public interaction, and you're going to need to be seen in order to affect it like properly. Be able to have those connections. And a Leo 10th house is like as visible as it can get.
Yeah.
So you have Mars, your chart ruler, running through there right now. You have Venus, which is another, like you have Venus in Libra natally, so that is a really strong benefic for you to begin with. Going through that 10th house, and I do think that visibility is going to become a major theme, and I think that is either going to be voluntary or forced upon you. But we'll see. Like we'll see whose prediction ends up like being able to come, because like I just don't see you. There's big stuff here. There's big stuff that is in the way of unfolding, and I don't think that it activates until you are at least virtually, physically, if that makes any sense, involved in it. Like if people can see you and attribute your works and your words to you.
Yeah. All amazing points. To add on to that, as a Leo midheaven, that's the sun in your 10th house, the highest part of your chart. You're supposed to be putting out a lot of light out here, lots of light out here. And Venus in the 10th house right now, you're going to be loved. And you already have Venus in the 11th house in Libra already, so you're already going to be loved as you put yourself in the world.
This is this is really beneficial energy in there. And I would totally recommend like using it with whatever like lunations you want to act, because this is just all good news. That's like firepower. Like Mars and you are like basically best friends. You have Mars in Aries at the 0 degree.
Sure.
Like this is like one of your placements that freaked me out the most when I saw it, because that is like pure Mars in the 5th house. Like that is a love of Martian things, right? Like that is as warrior spirit as you can possibly get. And Mars going through that public house, like there's nothing that he couldn't knock down for you. Like there's nothing you couldn't push past.
Right.
This is a really good time for launches. This is a really good time to let a public rally behind you, rally around you,
Seriously,
and your audience.
you have us. You have our support, my guy. Definitely. Like all Scorpios need to start putting out light because we have the most power. We have the most transformational power for other people. All right, we're here to transform people. And if you look at your chart, I mean, there's a big theme going on in your first house and with the Scorpio energy, and that has a lot to do with endings and beginnings. And I think it has a lot to do with you putting yourself out in the light with this Venus transiting your 10th house, like right here. For sure.
Yeah, and your 10th house ruler, because it's Leo, the sun is in your first house. Like, your public perception and your identity are really supposed to be aligned. Like, that is just like, there's no, those are two things that at some point, not like, are going to have to be one. And like I said, like, whether you want it or you don't, and especially with Pluto in there, that is like Sun Pluto conjunction is a real like authority figure kind of like
Facts.
vibe. Like
Facts.
that's somebody who has like public like
power,
wielding power kind of
persona, energy.
Yeah, I can't foresee any long life with you that does not involve some incarnation of that, where you are in that position. And it's good because getting to know you, like I think you're gonna be trusted in that position. Like you pay attention to how your actions and your words affect others. And you seem to have like some really like high-minded ideals that are good for you, good for everybody. But like there's no, I've said this to you before, but like I stand by it. Like that is something that is going to be part of your story.
Facts, big facts. How do you feel about that, John?
Trying to figure out how to break my shyness so I can, shine a little bit brighter for everybody to see.
This is how you do it as a Scorpio. Do it and never think about it again. Just do it and don't think about it again. I don't rewatch any video. I don't go back to look at any post. I just do, and I never think about it again. Because if I start thinking about it again every single time, I'll find a way to critique myself. I'll find a way to self-destruct. That's what Scorpios do. We self-destruct ourselves. We just need to put ourselves in the light and let that be the light and never go back there. Never go back to the darkness. Stay in the living, present moment at all times.
I have a huge fear. Like if you go through my Instagram, there's not very many pictures of me that aren't taken by myself. Like I really have a problem with how other people see me or present me. Like even when I'm doing photo shoot stuff, like usually I'll use my behind the scene pictures and not even the photographer stuff because I like to have my own lens. But what I found when Jason got me started streaming is this is so good for my like shy self because there's no editing. Like I don't have to go back through and look at all these pieces and start picking apart what happened. It's just automatic. He just turns it on and then like we have to go and see what happens. And something like that like kind of like removes the barriers, just like where you get to have that sort of automatic conversation. It's going to be scary and it's going to be thrilling. Like I bet you're going to feel more alive than you have in a really long time. But something that is that super like electric, like in the moment flow, I would really consider because it's a little addictive. It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. And seriously, the moment you do it, it becomes easier the next time. And the moment you do it the next time, the next time becomes easier. Okay?
Yeah, not just easier, like you look forward to it. There's like a community, even just like having like one person or whatever. You should come on here sometime and just like talk about apex points. I want to know more about apex points. Like I've been looking for a tutorial and I have no idea how to keep up with this amazing work that you're doing because you're doing a lot of it. So you definitely have content.
And since we're here, why don't you tell everybody some of your visions if you don't mind? Just you can do some practicing right now.
That's some of my visions.
Yeah.
Really, one thing I want to do is start a podcast to talk with different people that don't fit in to normal society and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And let them come on and talk and share their point of views instead of, you hear all these major big celebrities, but they don't have the substance of the little guy or the outcast anymore because they're too busy shining bright.
Right.
So I want to hear these people's ideas that don't really get to express themselves. The people that have, quote unquote psychological disorders. People that don't, that just don't fit in.
Right.
And I want to hear their views. Let them have an outlet where they get to talk, they get to speak, and go from there.
And that's needed out here, homie. That's a needed thing, for sure. A healing thing. You feel me?
Yeah.
So, John, I'm so happy that you shared that with us. Please keep us updated. You know I'm willing and down to collaborate with you anytime. I owe you for that, homie. All right, so let me know. Thank you for coming in, and we're about to get Shauna in here. So, John, any last words?
Lords, baby.
all day, homie, all day. All right, homie, I'll see you soon.
All right.
All right, so we got Shauna coming in here next.
Okay.
All right, this is going to be the last reading unless we get another one that wants to join in for a reading. Shonda, what's good?
For me?
What's that?
Do you have birth information for me? Can you text it?
Oh yeah, I don't have her birthday yet. Shonda, what's your birthday?
Man, y'all recording this too?
Do you want to send me a Twitter or something? A tweet?
Yeah, I'll send email.
How about this? If you don't want to tell us, tell me what's happening with the Uranus transit in you, because I know you get it. So what is the aspect?
Okay. All right. So my Uranus already squared my doggone sun, but I'm an early degree, so I already got through that, thank God. But now it's and then it's transiting my fourth, and now it's transiting my fifth, and it's actually conjuncting my fifth because it's Taurus. And I'm saying for all the years that I've been living on this earth, I have never did anything with the stock market at all or gamble. Like even if they give you the free quarters to go to the casino, like I'll take those quarters and like buy a soda or cigarettes or something.
You're not wasting those resources with that Scorpio energy.
No, man. So I think that I think at 19, that's when the Uranus after it went retrograde, it went direct and it opposed me, my sun. So, and it's going to soon oppose my Neptune because it's 25 degrees, but it's all right. I'm brave. So, but the speculation piece and the gambling piece of the fifth house, the young lady said that something about a baby or whatever. I get that because I know why she said that, but I think mine is really for the gambling. Well, I know the stock market is it's not gambling per se, but it's still like
speculative.
A gamble.
Speculative.
Yeah, these two especially like within like the Ape Nation movement, that did start from like a Reddit called Wall Street Bets, where the whole thing was the YOLO. Like you take these wild, crazy, like it wasn't like a stock exchange thing. It was an actual bet where you put everything in something that's so long off, and then it absolutely ended up paying off. So now it's like an actual stock that you can invest in. But back in the day when it was starting, it was totally speculative, and nobody thought it was going like that was the thrill of it. You just dump your money in and like cross your fingers. And we're still kind of in that place. Like nobody knows where it can go.
Yep. And what did you say it was conjunct, Shonda? Shonda? Did you catch what she said it was a conjunct on?
I think it's conjunct her fifth cusp right now.
Oh, the cusp,
Fifth
okay.
house.
Okay.
And then she had, I think, a Neptune opposition coming up. That's really
Yeah, I found that one pretty interesting. What would you say that? Because that's going to be in her 10th house then.
Yeah, that's two heavy hitters. Wow.
She could really make through taking risks, she could really make some fantasies come to reality.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I'm saying?
a good one. The way that sudden disruptions to fantasies and illusions, or like if there has been like sudden bursts of truth where there might have been deception either from somebody else or to yourself, I see like big like revelations, that kind of like pull the curtains back so that you're looking at things in a different way. And you could totally have like a revolution in sort of like the glamour, like how you project yourself out into the world, and like kind of like how you like that not seduction, but just like how we present, but like the sort of the more mystical side of it, how you kind of like want to affect people and their impression of you, not always necessarily what's grounded in reality.
Well, that's going to be a very fun time when Neptune hits that, and she could really, through taking risks, she could really make her fantasies come true, and that's going to be taking place in Scorpio energy with that Neptune there. So that's very, very transformational, especially for spiritual healing, for how you are in the world. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. But guys, Moon Lords, thank you guys so much for joining us again. It's been a fabulous time. Emily, is there any final words you want to say to that? And definitely shout out where they can connect with you.
So you can find me at lovemoneyvenus.com,
Mm.
and you can find me at Astro for Apes on Twitter. Pretty easy to find there.
Mhm.
The last thing that I want to say, and especially as we're all coming to do this, is like hold the fucking line, Taurus bulls. Like that is the most important part. Do not forget like the lessons, like the keys that we've been handed as far as like how this revolution works best. Like we've accidentally stumbled upon like the key ingredients, but don't leave them behind. Like hold the line. Be comfortable, be friendly, be warm with each other, and be as stubborn as you can possibly be, because I think like success is like guaranteed as long as we just refuse. Keep refusing until it is time to let it all go.
Facts, facts, facts. So, thank you guys for joining. I'm Jason Alexander, the Blue Moon of Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life. You guys just watched Uranus and Taurus Ape Revolution. You're watching Market Moonlord, where we merge the matrix with the stars. Until next time, peace.
Bye, guys.
We killed it again.